Oh, right on time. Actually, the StreamYard, it does a little bit better. And hello, everyone, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Believe it or not, here we are again. Oh, I got to shut this part off. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Look at that. I got a double me. While I'm trying to figure all this out, see, and then, you know, there's all kinds of stuff you can do on this StreamYard stuff, believe it or not. I want to say hello to everybody who's in the chat room. I know there's a lot of people over at watching Raised by Giants. I was over there a little while ago myself.
And greetings and blessings, everybody, from my end of the world.
Oh, the puppy dog wants to get in here on the action, don't you? You heard my voice doubling. Okay, go on, lay down. Well, thank you, David, for coming on. By gosh, we're gonna have a good one tonight. I have I don't know how I can do this. I do this and then show you my new book I got. This is a Lifetime book. If anybody wants to know, it's a Lifetime book. Of course, my dog already chewed it.
I was going to say, who chewed the corner?
Yeah, brand new book. Get it home, throw it on the bed, run to the bathroom, and the next thing you know, the dog has got it, and she's chewing the corners and ripping the papers out. I'm like, oh, my goodness. Ah, yes. Hello, everybody. There's Lucky Smith, and he is prospering. Much prosperity to you too. And there's Chloe. Much love and greetings to you, Chloe. Thank you for coming all the way down there in Texas. Big shout out to Texas. And Susie Q. Been under the weather. Will be listening. Thank you for coming. I'll send lots of healing energy to you, and I hope you get better. You know, it seems like a lot of people got the sickness or whatever that's going around. But guess what? We're all back. We're back again. I know I was on hiatus there for a while since the first of the year, but I was working my butt off. It's been really cold and, you know, lots of work to do. And so there I was. And busy days, you know, and you got to do what you got to do so that you can survive. It's the system. Anyway, and I am on call. So, you know, if something ever happens, I got to go. So we'll just play it by ear like always. Anyway, usually, I got to show you my new books I got too. I don't know if you ever heard of this. Look at this one. This is Wolverine Creates the World. It's a book from the Labrador Indian Tales. Believe it or not. You know where Labrador is, right?
Northeast, way up, right?
Yes. There's a picture in here I can show everybody. And this is, I'm going to blow it up here. Hang on a second. And this is where Labrador is. There's the Atlantic Ocean. Labrador is way up there beyond Quebec. So if you want to know. And Lucky Smith says, more than half of my department is out sick or working from home due to contact tracing and paranoia. Well, I tell you, people are paranoid. You just got to bear with it. Don't fall into the trap of being paranoid. Take your vitamin D, take your vitamin C, stay well and healthy. Wash your hands. That's what I should say. Wash your hands. Renee Hutchelson's in the house. Thank you for coming, Renee. Thank you. Let's see what else. Okay, so shall we get right into it? I want to make this. I got to get to bed early, so we're gonna do an hour and we'll be done. So let's get right into this.
Press on, my brother.
I know. Usually we get to chit chat for a while earlier, but we didn't get to do that today, and I kind of missed out.
I didn't hit the blue button.
Oh,
that's
you
my
didn't?
fault. I was on waiting on you at at 9:47, and I didn't hit the little blue button. It was beyond my screen, but I was sitting here like, hello.
Yeah. And then when I seen you, I was like, well, where you been? I was almost ready to call you again. I thought, oh my
I was
goodness.
sitting right here.
Maybe that was it. Well, it's this StreamYard stuff. It's all new, Okay. They must necessarily yield. While this is about the tribes, this one here is more about the Western tribes. And I've been reading this. This is really interesting book. It's about the Kiowas and the Sioux and stuff like that. So we'll just jump right in. And this is, they must necessarily yield. While the tribes at the Ceremonial Council on the Arkansas River look toward peaceful coexistence on the high plains, the highest councils of the United States government in Washington had very different plans for them. In fact, for all Indians, the government and most voters regarded them as lesser race and must be expelled from settled regions, driven to reservations, or exterminated. President Andrew Jackson, a former soldier who had fought against the Creeks and the Seminoles in the South, was brutally forthright in 1833 when he told Congress in a speech excerpted below what the nation's Indian policy should be. And what do you think that's going to be? And this is what the president said. My convictions upon this subject, I got to sound presidential, have been confirmed that those tribes can all exist surrounded by our settlements and in continual contact with our citizens is certain. They have neither the intelligence, the industry, the moral habits, nor the desire of improvement which are essential to any affordable or favorable change in their condition. Established in the midst of another and a superior race, and without appreciating the cause of their inferiority or seeking to control them, they must necessarily yield to the force of circumstances and ere long disappear. Such has been the fate heretofore, and if ill to be averted, it can only be done by a general removal beyond our boundary and by the recognition or by our reorganization of their political system upon principles adapted to the new relations in which they will be placed. Wow, it sounds like Andrew Jackson had it out for them, didn't he?
Yeah, well, one of the things is they weren't industrious enough. They didn't care, but they were too. What was that word that they used in there right at the beginning? But anyway,
yeah,
they that they were lackadaisical, and they didn't really, they didn't want to build towns and and high rises and all that. So, got to get rid of them.
Absolutely. Let's see.
Interestingly enough, in that they didn't say anything about teaching them. They just said we got to get rid of them.
They said they were gonna reorganize their political system upon principles adapted to the new relations in which they will be placed.
Yep.
Wow, that is like we're gonna change everything. And they must yield to the force of circumstances or long disappear. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty sad. I found another interesting bit, and this was kind of cool. And it talks about how the Indians were going to get some guns, right? So it says a full year passed before the two tribes clash at Ben's Fort in Cheyenne's, or at Ben's Fort, the Cheyennes traded for all the muzzle-loading flintlocks they could afford. The price was 5 good buffalo robes per gun. Then, taking along as many Arapaho allies as they could muster, they headed south to hunt Kiowas and found them in the Sand Hill country on Wolf Creek, some 140 miles northwest of modern Oklahoma City. They had decided to take no prisoners. One of the scouts who located the enemy the day in the spring of 1838 was a warrior in his 30s, Black Kettle, a handsome, thoughtful man who would become an important civil chief of the Cheyennes in the turbulent decades ahead. So, and I was thinking about this as I was reading it, and I know we just kind of skipped ahead to all this stuff, but the point is that the Cheyennes were going to go to war with the Kiowas, and I'm thinking, see, this is the plot of the white man, is to plot one Indian tribe against another and then have them wipe each other out, and then you come in and wipe the leftovers out, right?
Yep.
Oh, man. And then it goes on about the Cheyenne and the Arapaho, and we'll come back to that another day. There was another interesting piece in here that I wanted to get to, and this was about a guy, and you guys might have heard of him, and he on like a TV show or such. And this was this guy. He was kind of famous, I guess, in all respects, but he did preserve some Indian culture and whatever that we would have never had. Okay, and it's called The Indians as White Man Found Him. And I'm going to show you this wonderful picture here. And we're going to go like this. And see the picture? There we go. It is a really good picture. Now, that's a hand-painted picture from days gone by. And this is how that picture came to be. In 1833, the Indians of Upper Missouri, like the rest of the Plains tribes, were still sovereign. Uh-oh. Hang on. I got to click some stuff out of here. Were still sovereigns of their land. Although agents of fur companies had already started the process of cultural destruction, that year two rare visitors voyaged up the Missouri River, intent not on profit, but on knowledge. One was a middle-aged German prince, Maximilian of Weeded Neward. I never heard of that place. Preferred the study of natural history to ruling his tiny state. He brought along a young Swiss artist, Karl Bodomir. Traveling more than 2,500 miles, these beginning observers visited the Mandan, Hidias, Assiniboine, and the Blackfoot, and other tribes. While Maximilian took notes, Bodomir made more than 400 sketches of the looks and customs of the Indians. His sketches were the basis of later series of miraculous colored engravings, such as the rendering of the Haidas scalp dance below. That's the picture I showed you, in which the women led the celebration after a successful skirmish with the enemy. Their work was fated to be the final record of some of these people. Only a few years later, a smallpox epidemic brought on by the white men ravaged several tribes in the upper Missouri. And oh, come on. Why does this thing keep doing that to me? I'm going to show you these pictures. These are really beautiful pictures. And if you can see those. And these were the drawings that he made. And this is the Indians with their boats made out of buffalo robes and willow branches. And here in this picture here, there's an Indian in a lodge, their lodge, and then the top picture is a picture of some Indians playing a game. So there you go. Well, my computer's just yelling at me here. Okay. So, oh, come on. I don't want that. Oh, and then there's more. Here, hang on. These are really cool pictures, and you got to remember these people were, this is probably the last anybody had ever seen of these guys. And there they are doing a buffalo dance. And let's see. Yeah, and there's a woman looking at their totem pole dealies or spiritual something or others. And then we got the Indians looking out at the fort. You can see that. This was all the drawings made by that guy.
Yep. Well, many artists do several sketches of the person or whatever is to be painted. I've known several painters in my day, and they will sketch it, and and then some of my friends will take color pictures of them, and then between their sketches and the picture to get the color, then they make the painting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But back in those days, they just had to, I don't want to say guess about the colors, but, the colors of brown and, the tanned hides and that kind of thing were common colors. They didn't have to dream up oranges and purples. I mean,
yeah.
And turquoise. But anyway, continue, my friend.
Okay. So anyway, let's see. Here we go. We got the tribes and their territories. And I'm going to show you the picture on that. Here's, that one ain't coming across very good.
No, we can see right through it.
Yeah, that's
we terrible. See the background. We can't even see the page.
I know. That sucks.
It's the color.
It's because it's green.
Right, and it matches, but I can see the T-piece through
it. The green screen.
Behind you, yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have time to take away the green screen.
It's okay.
That's all right. The guy, everybody's happy. There's Michelle Can-Am Free. A big shout out to you. Much love, girl. We got Project Skyfalls in the house. Hello. And how are you doing? Elderberry's in the house. Yeah. Let's see. All right. Thank you for all of you for coming. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoy all this because I'm learning so much. And if you guys, any of you want to come on and talk about Indian stuff, give me a holler, shout me an email, and you could join us here. We'd be happy to have you read a story or two or tell your story about Indians or what you know. It'd be great. Okay. This one's called The Tribes and Their Territories. Now, it's talking about all these different tribes. It says, formidable, both as fighters and hunters. Oh, where'd my marker go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Otherwise, I'll lose my place. 13 nomadic warrior tribes dominated the heart of the grassland during the early and middle decades of the 19th century. But the world they lived in was in swift and violent transition. The tribal locations for the year 1840 shown on the map were very different from what they would have been only 50 years earlier or later. Some of the fire crests of the warrior tribes among the Cheyenne and the Sioux had moved to the wild plains from the wooded territory around the upper Mississippi and Great Lakes. Other less powerful Indians, such as the Iowa and the Missouri, had been forced by white pressure out of their regions that carried their names. The horse-born nomads who roamed the Great Plains subsisted mainly on buffalo or hunting buffalo. They fought hard amongst themselves and sometimes found the grassland contested by tribes like the Pawnee and the Mandan, who, for the most part, lived and farmed in permanent villages but hunted buffalo during the summer, and sometimes raided the nomads for horses. To the southwest were the Pueblo Indians, sophisticated farmers who lived in huge apartment houses of adobe or stone, shrewdly traded horses and corn to the southern nomads for buffalo robes and other products. Nearby were the deadly Apaches, once dwellers of the southern plains, but now mostly driven to the region that would become New Mexico, where they were periodically harassed by their powerful enemies, the Comanches. Through the central and northern Rocky Mountains, the Utes, the Shoshones, Nez Perce, and other occasionally saltied out into the buffalo country. Every summer, for example, the Nez Perce rode eastward over the high passes to hunt buffalo and to trade with the raid against the plains tribes. By the 1840s, tribe against tribe fighting had less effect on the Indian settlement patterns than growing incursions of white men. As the white pressure upon the West increased, only the largest and most powerful plains tribes, among them the Sioux, the Cheyenne, Blackfoot, and Comanche, could hold out any length of time. Smaller tribes, such as the Arikara and the Crow, often became allies of the whites against warrior nations that had been their traditional enemies. So there you go.
Yep.
Oh.
It drove the Indian both ways, and unfortunately, the ones that joined the white men were a lot of those were subsequently sent to the to the concentration camps back in those days.
Yes,
Uh,
yes, they had
and
been.
the native peoples had to become so white as that nobody really they had to cut their hair. I mean, they just had to do the whole route, and they still got harassed, but not near as much as if they tried to stay Indian.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Yeah. Um, well, and that's the thing, the bigger tribes, I guess, they held out longer. I suppose they traded and, you know, they were wiping each other out. And then, like I said, the white man came in and wiped them out. It was a no-win
yeah, well,
situation.
the Apache and the Comanche later on, banded together, and some of those smaller tribes became Apache down in the Southwest and riding back and forth across the border from Mexico because they could hide down there, in the 1880s when they were still trying to wipe the Indian out, and the Indian wars were really going on back then.
Mm-hmm.
But they were going back and forth across the Mexican border,
Mm-hmm.
stealing, trading, and doing anything they could. Now imagine if you grew up and were like born. Okay, I was born in 1952. Okay, it's already the year 2022. Oh, and Happy New Year, by the way, everybody. I think this is our first show this year live,
Yeah,
right? But
yes,
anyway,
yes, it is.
but to them folks, so if I was born in 1852, and by the time I was 20, I'd have been through a war and then getting rid of all of the Native Americans. So, how I felt about it and what I had seen, and let's go wipe out the red man. So during that time, it would have been, just like slavery had become, household. Even
Mm-hmm.
poor people had a slave
Mm-hmm.
because it was tough to make ends meet back in them days.
Oh,
Seriously.
yeah.
But so the native folks, when they saw that the white man was a bigger problem than than other red men, they started, banding together. And so there were a lot of misplaced Indians who became Cheyenne, or more, I would say, they'd been chased south, so they were more of the Apache.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. I didn't realize when I was reading this that a lot of these tribes, are moved around already by the time we actually seen what was going on. They the Apaches, like I said, it says they were in New Mexico. That's what registers in my head all the time, is that the Apaches were in New Mexico, whereas they were more uh, east or north, and then they just moved around till they got to a place where they were cornered, like I guess that's
Well, the plains was a lot better place for the buffalo. The
yeah,
buffalo didn't roam down in Arizona and more down in the Southwest. It was too much desert. So, so the Apache moved down yonder where nobody else wanted to go,
mm-hmm.
simply because, they could go up and do raiding parties and come back, but to live up there, nah, it was too risky.
Yeah, well, and I, there was buffalo on the eastern side of the Mississippi River, but I guess the last one was killed out 1812, I guess, was when they were all wiped out on that side of the river. But that just tells you that, you know, at some point there was no buffalo over there. Like it was saying, like the northern tribes, like the Mandan and stuff, and they were actually more in Minnesota and up to Wisconsin area, and they would have buffalo sometimes in there. But hey, if you wipe the buffalo out on the eastern side, or well, you're gonna move all your stuff out west, and then they came out to the Dakotas.
Right. And it was all about profit, which native folks didn't really understand that. The acquisition of property, for example, because native
Mm-hmm.
folks just felt like all of Mother Earth was their home. And, and there were certain boundaries between tribes, but they never put up a fence.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that, that native peoples only because of their spiritual beliefs didn't kill off everything.
Mm.
They knew better. They
Yeah,
just knew better.
yeah, yeah.
But
They
money
did.
and greed and that type of thing is what drove the white men to just, and they still do it. They'll wipe something clean until there ain't nothing left and just leave a hole.
Yep, and then move on. Throw their
Yep.
junk in the hole and move on. I see you were
Yeah.
smoking there earlier, and I got one little last thing about the peace pipe. This one's pipes for prayer and friendship. I'm going to do this real quick, and this and so you all know what a peace pipe is and stuff. But anyway, here it says, I thought this was pretty cool. It says no rite was more widely practiced by the Indians than smoking. When an Indian lit a mixture of tobacco and various aromatic herbs called kickanikik in the stone bowl of his pipe, his intent was often deeply serious. The smoke that he exhaled was seen as a breath of prayer, and the pipe itself was regarded as an intimate channel of communication to the spirit world. Pipes were also used to sanctify communication between men. An early fur trapper named Alexander Ross noted that the pipe smoking was the introductory step to all important affairs, and no business can be entered upon with these people before the ceremony of smoking is over. Ceremonial pipes, like the crow pipe below, were the personal property of a chief, medicine man, or a warrior. They were smoked according to a grave and precise ritual to pledge an oath or ratify a treaty, which inspired the white man's phrase, peace pipe. The pipes were also used as passports when traveling and for or coincidental in even the most private disputes. If a brave ran off with someone else's wife etiquette decreed that he send an old man to the husband bearing a pipe. If the husband smoked the offering, it meant that he would not take revenge on the lovers. Many men owned and adorned everyday pipe because smoking was also a casual habit. But the older men sometimes felt obliged to warn the younger warriors against excessive smoking. It could cut their wind and thus reduce their stamina in battle. And I'll give you a picture of the pipe.
And even
And
smoking back then was, considered unhealthy.
yeah, go figure. So there you go. So that was the thing with the pipe. And I thought that was kind of interesting. They decorated it and used it for different things. So very interesting there. So that's what I got for today, and that's my new book, and I'm really happy with it. And yay.
Yay, team, huh?
Yeah, I was really thrilled with it. I've been reading the heck out of that book. So what do you
Well,
got
that's
for
good.
tonight? What do you got for tonight?
Well, they're interesting, that's for sure.
Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
think I've read these because they're a little longer, but
Yep.
we're going to go back to the front of the book.
All right. Now I was going to tell you, you can get other books or whatever you want.
Oh, I know, but there are still plenty of stories in this book we haven't even touched upon.
Oh, okay.
And that we've just skipped over because, if it was 1.5, 2 pages long, I knew I could read it in enough time. So, but these are like 3 or 4 pages long. So they're a little longer, but I skipped over them before.
Okay, so where are we going? Front of the book.
I think I've read this one, but I want to read it again. It's on page 14. It just seems like a good place to start for this, for the beginning of the year. And for some reason, I was kind of drawn to creation stories for whatever reason. But I think it's because we're here with a new year, and it's not just the creation of humanity or children, but creation is all the time. I mean, we get on this show, every Tuesday or so, and this is our creation that we wish to share with everyone. And we share works that were already created. So we're kind of passing it along. But anyway, it just seemed like tonight that this is just, what I come up with.
Hang on, I'm getting there. I finally found the pages. I went a little too far, and this is a little bit different in StreamYard. So I mean Zoom. So I gotta do this ahead of time. 13 and 14. Creation of the animal people. Okay. Share screen.
Are we like all roped in and everything?
Yeah, there we go.
In.
And
hi, everybody.
Howdy doody. And there we go. Creation of the animal people.
Okay. So this is an Ogun story, and reported by Ella Clark in the 1950s. Creation of the animal people. The earth was once a human being. Old One made her out of a woman. You will be the mother of all people, he said. Earth is alive yet, but she has been changed. The soil is her flesh. The rocks are her bones. The wind is her breath. Trees and grass are her hair. She lives spread out, and we live on her. When she moves, we have an earthquake. After taking the woman and changing her to earth, Old One gathered some of her flesh and rolled it into balls, as people do with mud or clay. He made the first group of these balls into the ancients, the beings of the early world. The ancients were people, yet also animals. In form, some looked human while some walked on all fours like animals. Some could fly like birds. Others could swim like fishes. All had the gift of speech, as well as greater powers and cunning than either animals or people. But deer were never among the ancients. They were always animals, even as they are today. Besides the ancients, real people and real animals lived on the earth at that time. The old one made the people out of the last balls of mud he took from the earth. He rolled them over and shaped them like Indians and blew on them to bring them alive. They were so ignorant that they were the most helpless of all the creatures Old One had made. Old One made people and animals into males and females so that they might breed and multiply. Thus, all living things came from earth. When we look around, we see part of our mother everywhere. The difficulty with the early world was that most of the ancients were selfish and some were monsters, and there was much trouble among them. They were also very stupid in some ways. Though they knew they had to hunt in order to live, they did not know which creatures were deer and which were people. And sometimes they ate people by mistake. At last, Old One said, "There will soon be no people if I let things go on like this." So he sent Coyote to kill all the monsters and other evil beings among the ancients and teach the Indians how to do things. And Coyote began to travel on the earth, teaching the Indians, making life easier and better for them, and performing many wonderful deeds.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah, wow. And so one of the interesting things is they were so stupid, and if you think of, us as human beings, deer are born and a lot of other critters are born and they can like run in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, they're up and out of here.
Yep.
Human beings, when we're born, we would not survive at all for how many years? I mean, how hard, a young puppy could make it. Young kittens can make it. Young kids, people, nah, so we've needed help for a long time. But anyway, and also we talk about Coyote all the time. So the creator sent Coyote to kill all the monsters. So here's Coyote. Now he's doing the creator's work. So in all of these stories that go back, Coyote is the trickster and all these other things, but he's also doing a really big job for the creator. So, Coyote had a lot of stuff going for him. But anyway, just as a side note. Now,
you know what reminds me of this story? So we go back and look at it, and in the beginning it says, okay, so we're gonna say like from the Bible story, right?
Right.
And we know that God took clay and made man, and then he blew into him and gave him breath or whatever.
Right.
Well, here it says, that they did the same thing. Rolled them out of blast balls of mud, and they blew on them and bringing them alive. But they were dumb. So if you go back to the Enki and Enlil story, remember, I don't know if you heard the Sumerian story. Right. They made man, and man was so dumb he would run into the wall, and he didn't know how to piss himself, and he couldn't speak, and one could do this and one could do that, and they finally had to make And then finally they had all men, and they said, "Oh my gosh, we gotta make a woman because, it's a lot of work to keep making people." You know what I'm saying? So they made women, and then they just recreate themselves. So, but it just sounds like the same thing, only a little bit tweak in here and a little bit of tweak in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and that and the Bible also states there were giants in those days.
Yeah.
And and there was all this other stuff. So as we have stated many times, these creation stories by the native peoples, you'd have swore that they had read the first part of the Bible in a
Yeah.
way.
Oh yeah.
They're
Yeah. Exactly.
monsters and this and that and the evil and creator, and people didn't know how to do things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Well,
anyway, so
well,
the next,
I was gonna say. Now, remember I was telling you about this book, the Wolverine one. Wolverine creates the world.
right.
Okay, well, there's a short one in here. If we're talking creation story, you want me to? This is only like a page and a half.
Go ahead.
It says Wolverine creates the world. Long, long ago was a time of great floods. Almost the whole world lay underwater. Wolverine was able to keep dry only by leaping from stone to stone. He said to himself, "If these floods get any worse, even my stepping stones will be submerged, and that'll put an end to my wandering, perhaps my life too." So he called a meeting of all the water animals. He asked each of them to help him save the world from drowning. First, he talked to Otter. "Dive down, Otter," Wolverine said, "and bring me some ground." Otter dived down, but he came up without any ground. He said he couldn't see anything down there except weeds and a few fish. Next, he talked to Beaver. He said, "If you bring up some ground, I will find pretty little wife for you." Beaver also went down, but he didn't bring back any ground either. "I can't swim deep enough to reach the bottom," he gasped. "And as for the wife, I'd rather live without one than drown." So Wolverine asked Muskrat to bring him some ground. "I'll try," Muskrat says, "but only if you tie a thong to my leg." The thong was tied to tied, and Muskrat jumped into the water. He was down there for quite a while. "I hope he didn't drown," Wolverine thought. He put up the rope he pulled up the rope, and when he did, up came the thong without Muskrat. "Too bad," thought Wolverine. "That means only water, water, and more water from now on." But just when he had given up, Muskrat surfaced. His mouth was so full of ground that he couldn't talk, nor could he breathe. Wolverine put his lips to Muskrat's ass and blew as hard as he could. Out came the ground from Muskrat's mouth, more and more ground, heaps and heaps of it, seemingly without end. This ground is the very earth we walk on today. So go figure.
And here's the interesting story. And Beaver said, "I'd rather do without a wife." I'm sorry, that just cracked me up. But what I was thinking of is those old stories. They're using women and like, woo! I'll get you a girl if you do this. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like, Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
prostitution.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, I'll get you the cute little girl if you'll dive down to the bottom of the ocean for me.
Yeah.
No sweat,
Even back in those days, they were still
I mean, yeah,
thinking that way.
And there are some stories that are kind of risque that the different tribes talk about how, especially how Glooskap gets in and sneaks in under the covers with different native girls and the chief's daughters. And there are a lot of those that I haven't told, but they're borderline pornographic in a way, especially for those days. You know what I mean? But anyway, so next story.
Yes. What
Page 26, not far down. The old woman of the spring.
Wait a minute. 26.
I'm just reading the title.
Oh, okay. I went a little fast here. 36. Crap.
Yeah,
Um,
not quite. We're going to get to, we'll see how much time we got when I get done with this one.
there we go. 26. The old woman of the spring. Okay, and share we will. Share screen. And there we go.
This is a story based, reported by George A. Dorsey at the turn of the century. Now, that would have been the 1800s to 1900s back then.
Mm-hmm.
The Old Woman of the Spring, Cheyenne. This tale about the gifts of corn and buffalo to the Cheyenne is related to the legend which follows it about Arrow Boy. In the Cheyenne manner, a storyteller will say, let's tie another story to the end of this one and go on from there. North, as it is spoken of at the beginning of both tales, is a nostalgic reference to the Cheyenne hunting grounds in North Central America from which they were driven by invading tribes, probably the Ojibwe. When the Cheyennes were still in the north, they camped in a large circle at whose entrance a deep, rapid spring flowed from a hillside. The spring provided the camp with water, but food was harder to find. The buffalo had disappeared, and many people went hungry. One bright day, some men were playing the game of ring and javelin in the center of the camp circle. They used a red and black hoop and 4 long sticks, 2 red and 2 black, which they threw at the hoop as it rolled along. In order to win, a player had to throw his stick through the hoop while it was still moving. A large audience had already gathered when a young man came from the south side of the camp circle to join them. He wore a buffalo robe with the hair turned outward. His body was painted yellow, and a yellow painted eagle breech feather was fastened to his head. Soon another young man, dressed exactly like the first one, came from the north side of the circle to watch the game. They were unacquainted, but when the two caught sight of each other, they moved through the crowd to talk. My friend, said the man from the south side, you're imitating my dress. Why are you doing it? The other man said, it's you who are imitating me. Why? In their explanations, both men told the same story. They had entered the spring that flowed out from the hillside, and there they had been instructed how to dress. By now, the crowd had stopped watching the game and gathered around to listen, and the young man told the people that they would go into the spring again and come out soon. As the crowd watched, the two approached the spring. The man from the south covered his head with his buffalo robe and entered. The other did the same thing. The young men splashed through the water and soon found themselves in a large cave. Near the entrance sat an old woman cooking some buffalo meat and corn in 2 separate earthen pots. She welcomed them. Grandchildren, you have come. Here, sit beside me. They sat down, one on each side of her, and told her that the people were hungry and that they had come to her for food. She gave them corn from one pot and meat from the other. They ate until they had enough, and when they were through, the pots were still full. Then she told them to look towards the south, and they saw that the land in that direction was covered with buffalo. She told them to look to the west, and they saw all kinds of animals, large and small, including ponies, though they knew nothing of ponies in those days. She told them to look toward the north, and they saw corn growing everywhere. The old woman said to them, all this that you have seen shall be yours in the future. Tonight, I cause the buffalo to be restored to you. When you leave this place, the buffalo will follow and your people will see them coming before sunset. Take this uncooked corn in your robes and plant it every spring in low, moist ground. After it matures, you can feed upon it. Take also this meat and corn that I have cooked, she said, and when you have returned to your people, ask them to sit down to eat in the following order. First, all males from the youngest to the oldest, with the exception of one orphan boy. Second, all females from the oldest to the youngest, with the exception of one orphan girl. When all are through eating, the rest of the food in the pots is to be eaten by the orphan boy and the orphan girl. The two men obeyed the old woman. When they passed out of the spring, they saw that their entire bodies were painted red and yellow. Breath feathers on their heads had turned red. They went unto their people, who ate as directed of the corn and of the meat. There was enough for all, and the contents of the pots remained full until they were passed to the two orphan children, who ate all of the rest of the food. Toward sunset, the people went to their lodges and began watching the spring closely, and in a short time they saw a buffalo leap out. Hello. Then another and another, and finally they came so fast that the Cheyenne were no longer able to count them. The buffalo continued to emerge all night, and the following day the whole country out in the distance was covered with buffalo. The buffalo scented the great camp. The next day the Cheyenne surrounded them, for though the men hunted on foot, they ran very fast. For a time the people had an abundance of buffalo meat, and in the spring they moved their camp to low, swampy land, where they planted the corn they had received from the medicine stream. It grew rapidly, and every grain they planted brought forth strong stalks, bearing 2 to 4 ears of corn. The people planted corn every year after this. One spring after planting corn, the Cheyenne went on a buffalo hunt. When they had enough meat to last for a long time, they returned to their fields. To their surprise, they found that the corn had been stolen by some neighboring tribe. Nothing but stalks remained, not even a kernel for seed. Though the theft had occurred about a moon before, the Cheyenne trailed the enemy's footprints for several days. They even fought with 2 or 3 tribes, but never succeeded in tracing of the robbers or recovering the stolen crop. It was a long time before the Cheyenne planted any more corn.
Huh. We'll go figure that one.
And I've got one more if we have time.
Yeah, go. Let's do one more. What page?
Page 33. It's the Great Medicine Dance.
Oh, that sounds like a good one.
And it's Cheyenne. It's only a couple of pages, so
that's fine. I'm trying to find it here. I forward a little bit too fast. There we go. Some of these things are they are technical. Okay, and I should be. Yes, there we go. Back in business, man.
Okie dokie, friends and neighbors. The Great Medicine Dance, Cheyenne. The sun dance was the most important, solemn, and awe-inspiring ritual of the prairie tribes west of the Missouri. Sun dance is its Sioux name. The Cheyenne called it the New Life Lodge, while for the Ponca, it was the Mystery Dance. Closely related to the sun dance was the Okapi ceremony of the man dance. The dance took place once a year at the height of summer. It lasted 4 days, longer if the elaborate preparations are taken into account. In some tribes, such as the Sioux, the ritual involved the piercing of the dancers the passing of sharpened skewers through the flesh of their chests, and the performance of other kinds of self torture. This is still the custom during Sioux sun dances today. In other tribes, the ritual involved fasting and looking at the sun throughout the 4 long days. The most extreme form of self torture occurred during the Okapi ceremony of the Mandans, painted in great detail by Caitlin in the 1830s. Dancers suffered, they gave of their flesh so that the people might live. They underwent piercing in obedience to a vow, or to help a sick relative or recover, or to bring a beloved son back unhurt from the warpath. The dance was a celebration of the renewal of all life, to make the grass grow and the buffalo and the people increase and thrive. It was the one occasion when all the small hunting bands of a tribe came together, a time for old friends to talk and for young men to find wives. The Tistas people have danced the great medicine dance for a long, long time, longer than anyone can remember or even imagine. The dance represents the making of this universe and was conceived and taught to the people by the Creator, Maheo, and his helper, Great Roaring Thunder. It portrays the making of the sun, the moon, and the stars, of rain, wind, and snow, of Grandmother Earth and the blue sky above her, of the mountains and rivers, of all living things, big and small. And the dance is performed especially in times of starvation, distress, and widespread death. This, our most sacred ceremony, was brought to us by the Sioux, i.e., medicine man, horns standing up, under the guidance of the Creator himself. Long ago, when the earth and the people dwelling upon it were young, one tribe was starving. The earth itself was starving, for no rain was falling. Plants and trees wilted. Many rivers dried up. The animals were dying of hunger and thirst. The Cheyenne had nothing to eat except some old dried corn and their dogs, which used to carry their packs in those days before we had horses. There were not many dogs remaining and very little corn, so the people left their old hunting grounds, left the land which had nourished them for generations, and started off in search of food. They went north, where the drought was less severe, but found little game and no buffalo at all. One evening they came to a stream in which water still flowed. The leaders and the old chiefs sat down beside this stream and sadly watched the thin, weary people pitching their teepees. Then it came to the chiefs, as in a vision, what ought to be done. They ordered all the men to go to the women, each man to a woman he felt most attracted to, and beg her to give him something to eat. The men did this as they were directed, and each chose the woman who was to feed him. Among the warriors was a young medicine man. He went up to a beautiful woman who happened to be the wife of the head chief. She set a bowl of dog soup before him and waited for him to finish eating. Then he said, I have chosen you from among all women to help me save our people. I want you to go north with me as the medicine spirits have commanded. Take your dog teams and bring supplies for a long journey. Now, right away. Though she was the chief's wife, the woman did what the medicine man had asked. She was ready to travel in no time, and the two left unobserved in the dark of night. 2 days and 1 night they traveled without stopping, urging on the dogs who carried the travois with the teepee poles and hides and other things needed for survival. At last they rested. The man told the woman to put up the lodge and to prepare 2 beds of soft, fragrant sage for them to sleep on. He said, "Make the teepee face the rising sun." He also told her that Maheo, the creator, had sent him a vision revealing that the 2 of them must go north and bring back the great medicine lodge, Maho's symbol of the universe, and with it a sacred ceremony which they would teach to the Cheyenne people. In my vision, he said, Maheo promised that if the people accept and perform this holy ritual, the rains will fall again and the earth rejoice. The plants will bring forth green leaves and fruit, and the buffalo will return. And so they traveled, the woman carrying every evening, pitching the teepee facing east and preparing the beds of sage on opposite sides of the teepee, the man sleeping on his bed, the woman on hers. One night she said, "How is this? You made me run away with you, but you never approach me as a man approaches a woman. Why did you make me go with you then?" He answered, "We must abstain from embracing until we enter the great mountain of the north and receive the sacred medicine dance. After we emerge from the mountains, I shall embrace you in a renewal of all life ceremony by which people will continue to be born generation after generation through the woman power of perpetuation." At last they came to a vast dark forest from whose center rose a cloud wreathed mountain reaching far into the sky. Beyond the mountain they saw a lake of unending waters. They came to a large rock at the foot of the mountain, rolled the rock aside, and discovered an entrance. They went inside the mountain and, closing the opening behind them, found themselves in the mountain's great medicine lodge, which was wonderful to behold. Today, the medicine teepee, which the Cheyenne put up for their sun dances at Bear Butte, is an imitation of that sacred mountain lodge. The young men and women The young man and the woman heard voices coming out of the mountaintop, the voices of Maheo, the creator, and his helper, great roaring thunder, instructing them in the holy ways to perform the sacred ceremony. Maheo spoke for 4 days. When they had learned all there was to know about the dance, the creator said, "Now you will leave and teach the people what I have taught you. And if they perform the ceremonies in the right way, they will be favored for generations to come. The sun, the moon, the stars will move again in harmony. Roaring thunder will bring soothing rain and winds. Corn and chokecherries will ripen again. Wild turnips and healing herbs will grow once more. All the animals will emerge from behind this mountain, herds of buffalo and antelope among them, and follow you back to your village and your people. Take this sacred hat, Isiswan, and wear it whenever you perform the sun dance. With Isiswan, you will control the animals, the buffalo, the antelope, the elk, the deer, who give themselves to people for food. The Tsistas shall never be hungry again, but live in plenty. Put on this sacred buffalo hat as you leave, and Grandmother Earth will smile upon you forever." And so the young man of the Sioux and the good-looking woman left the mountain through the secret passage. As they rolled the rock aside and emerged, buffalo without numbers streamed out of the mountain behind them, and the earth brought forth green shoots. Herbs and plants sprouted under a gentle rain, and the earth was like new, glistening in freshness. Thus the man and the woman walked sacredly, clad in buffalo robes, painted red, and the medicine man wore his horned cap. Their dogs walked before them, dragging their travois poles, while behind them followed a thundering herd of buffalo. And after these came all manner of animals, male and female, big and small. At the day's end, the man and the woman put up their teepee and lay down on their beds of sage to rest. And all the animals settled down to rest also. And at some time during this journey back to the village, the man and the woman did lovingly what was necessary to ensure renewal and continuation of life through woman power. Each morning during their travels, the man sang the sacred songs, which the voice of Maheo had taught him. At last one evening they arrived near the stream where the people were still camped, awaiting their return. The medicine man and the woman did not go into the village at once, but spent the night outside. In the morning, the medicine man put on Isewan and entered the camp, accompanied by the woman. He told the people of all that had passed, told them that he had brought them the knowledge of the great medicine lodge and the great sacred dance, the songs and ceremonies that went with it, and above all, Isewan, the sacred buffalo hat, which had the power to control the wandering of the animals. He told the people that if they performed the sacred sun dance, they would have plenty of buffalo to eat and would never suffer hunger again. The people put up the medicine lodge according to the young man's instructions, painted their bodies in a sacred manner, and sang the right songs. The children made clay figures of buffalo, antelopes, and elk, and brought them into the lodge as a symbol of life's renewal. Since then, whenever the little figures are placed inside the medicine lodge during the dance, so those animals will come near to gaze upon the sacred teepee, and some of their animal power will linger on. In the same way, our old friends, the Sioux people, fasten the figures of a man and a bison, cut both from buffalo hide, to their sacred Sundance pole. Then an eagle will come in and circle above the dancers to bless them. Thus, Tistas people performed the great medicine ceremony for the first time, and all was well again. And the people named the young medicine man Horn Standing Up, because the sacred hat has two horns at each side. Told by Jose Limpy and Mrs. Medicine Bull, with the help of an interpreter at Bernie Mountain in 1972, recorded by Richard Erdos. Some say that Horn Standing Up did not touch the beautiful woman until well after the sun dance was finished, and from this belief comes the custom that men refrain from having relations with women from the time of making the vow to dance until after the ceremony is over. Josie Limpy was an old chain-smoking lady beholding to the Sioux division of the Cheyenne tribe. She was, at the time, keeper of the Isewan, the sacred buffalo hat at the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. This story was actually related inside the teepee in which Isewan was kept. Now, I would also like to do a little addendum to that story, in that I've known people who have participated in the Sundance. And, huh?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, there are those who do piercings, and then there are those folks, I guess you would say, are their backup. So they have water and things and stuff, and sage and drums and bells, and so they're like the prayer person for the person maybe doing the piercings or whatever it is. And I talked to this lady who I learned to make my drums and who made my drum.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so how long? She goes, if you commit to it, you don't get out of it for 4 days. You're there, whether you like it or not. If you
Yep.
started it, you're going to finish it. You're going to finish it. And she was not one for talking about, trippy things and special, but she talked about trippy things and stuff like that when she talked about her, her 4 days with the Sundance. And so I was like, I don't know about the piercing part, but 4 days, and there is fasting, but then there are runners who bring water and, different things like a lemon to suck on or something like that. So there is the hardship and so forth, but they don't want you to die either, So
Yeah.
it's like, because it's hot and, all that kind of good stuff. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and these folks still do it. And a person who chooses to do the Sundance, some of these guys practice, pray, and go on special, walkabouts and so forth for years before they
Mm-hmm.
will enter a Sundance.
Oh
So
wow.
it's a serious. I just can't explain it any. They're serious about this stuff. I mean, in the Christian sense, these. There was a movie years ago, A Man Called Horse,
Mm-hmm. Oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that
that's the
one.
Sundance.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
The
I'm gonna.
ceremony where he's outside and they pierce him and they hang him up and all that.
Yeah.
That's the Sundance.
Man, oh man, I got. Hang on. Oh, I got
But
a
through that,
book. I got a
but
new book the other day or today, actually, and I was paging through here, and I found that. So you keep talking, I might be able to find the picture of the Sundance. If I can find it.
but see now the Cheyenne and their different tribes have their own version of it.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's still however you look at it, it's a serious ceremony. People just don't go like a powwow and do this stuff. Nah. But if you go to a Sundance ceremony, you better be in the right frame of mind, or they'll put you in the right frame of mind, or they'll throw you out. I mean, not to be rude, but they'll just say sorry. If you're here, now there are folks who come to watch, but they all have to be respectful. They
Oh
can't be
yeah.
hooting and hollering and bringing in cokes and all that. It ain't a spectator sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. I'm hoping I can find the picture of that because I remember reading about that a little bit as I was paging through the book, and I remember seeing that picture.
But if any one of you out there, if you have not seen the movie A Man Called Horse, you should, simply because they're from what I understand, it's pretty dead gum accurate as far as some of the scenes of the Sundance.
Uh oh. Hang on. Hang on.
So if
Okay.
you, for any of you, want a glimpse of what the Sundance might be like, check out A Man Called Horse. It's a long movie and a little tedious at times, but and then there was Dances with Wolves, and I mean that in that the the movie length of A Man Called Horse was like, everybody was like, nobody will ever go to watch a movie that's that long and sit through it and be happy and all that kind of thing. Um, it looks like we lost our dear friend Robert for a moment. So, but I know it's been a little while since I've done a card reading. I was going to do one here recently, and I've just been a little under the weather the last few days and so forth. But at the end of this show, we have started the tradition of me doing card reading, and for the whole group, for the week, for the month, for the night, for future, however you want to look at it. And so, and I know Robert's out there fumbling and mumbling, rissom frackum rassom, just never mind. I was thinking of concerned varmint, on the I'm still shuffling Bugs Bunny show. Rootin' Sam, rootin' tootin' Sam with the guns, So, interesting. So my card for tonight, or however, it's not my card, but it's our card. So interesting that in the stories that I told tonight, I don't plan on them. I thumb through and then they say, "Ooh, this one's good," But
I am back. Okay, I got the pictures. I'm sorry. I had to take the call. I'm call.
Shuffling cards.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that. Okay, here you go. There's the Sioux dance right there. You haven't seen it? See where they kind of tie themselves to the pole? Right there. There's the pole, and they kind of anchor themselves to that. Go figure. And that is, it says here, Sioux Sundance, another painting by Oscar Howell. This simple but impressive painting really captures the Indian view of this great ceremony, in which what was shocking to missionaries was beautiful and holy to the eyes of the Indians. Two men continually tugging at the lines that connect them to the sacred tree, to which all attached a variety of symbolic objects. A third, who has just broken free and completed his discipline, scatters the feathers in his hand as he sinks to the ground. So there you go. So that's kind of interesting.
Yep, and there are some folks who would liken it to torture.
Yeah.
And okay, but or that it's self-emulation is like setting yourself on fire or something. But here's the thing. Having learned ceremonies myself, there was a particular ceremony where I for whatever reason, and I didn't know this going in, but halfway through I was asked to burn myself on my left hand. And I took a lit log out of the fire and held it to my left hand. Let's see. But anyway, there's a little bit of a white scar that that is even hard for me to see these days. And I did not feel it, which was astounding because it was red hot coals right out of the fire. Mm-hmm. And just it wasn't. I had to feel that you have to transgress, go beyond the pain into the next place. And I've had enough pain in my life. I was like, you want me to burn myself? But because I was like, I'm heavy into the dance and I have fasted for this ceremony and you want me to burn myself? But I got it. So it wasn't like I, just had to hold it, but it was there for a while, and I can see this little white mark on my on the back of my hand. But so anyway, the interesting thing was it did not hurt until later. And all I had to do was pass my hand, say the fire is the screen, which is at arm's length. My hand that had this little red mark on it never blistered. It never got infected. And within 3 days' time was almost gone. Mm-hmm. But so it was like, at the time I was like, you want me to burn myself? But it's a badge of honor. They had to prove different things to me that in the right frame of mind that you can just not feel pain. Also, in that if you trust in the Lord kind of thing, that we'll show you that if you do this with the right frame of mind, it'll be healed in a couple of days. You won't even know it because it was done as part of this ceremony, as my sacrifice and proof to spirit that I really meant what I was talking about. You know, what proof better than to follow their instructions, even though sometimes it seems insane. Anyway, so, but I get it. And it's not that they want you to suffer, it's the being able to go beyond what the pain is, to be able to go. It's interesting. I'm not telling folks go out and burn yourselves or anything like that. No, no. There are people who cut themselves. This is not that, okay? Porcupine.
Porcupine. You want to show? See if I can do that. No, that's wrong.
Straight up, porcupine.
Yeah, wrong way. I'm trying to get so I can enlarge your screen. Oh, here. Hold the card up. There you go. I did it. I figured it out this time.
Okay.
There you go.
Porcupine, right side up. Number 12. And for those folks who don't know, the Null family crest is supposed to be the porcupine, which is like, what? I pulled the porcupine? Okay. Innocence. Interesting. Porcupine remind me of innocence again. With every man a brother and each woman a friend. The south of the medicine wheel is a place of childlike innocence and humility. It is the home of playfulness and the position. Excuse me, let me quit. Let me have something to drink and burp a minute. Oh, by the way, have some coffee, and we love you, Bob. Everybody say hi to Bob, and thank you for having a good show.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty good today.
Yeah. It is the home of play in the South. It is the home of playfulness and the position of porcupine on the medicine wheel of life. Porcupine has many special qualities and a very powerful medicine. The power of faith and trust. The power of faith contains within it the ability to move mountains. The power of trust in life involves trusting that the Great Spirit has a divine plan. Your task is to find the pathway that is most beneficial for you and that uses your greatest talents to further that plan. Trust can open doorways to the creation of space. The space thus created allows others to open their hearts to you and to share their gifts of love, joy, and companionship. If you were to observe porcupine, you would immediately notice its quills. These quills are only used when trust has been broken between porcupine and another creature. Much like otter, porcupine is a gentle, loving creature and non-aggressive. When fear is not present, it is possible to feed a porcupine by hand and never get stuck by its quills. Through understanding the basic natures of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and faith, and for becoming like a child again. In today's society, there is a needed reminder to honor the wonder of life and the appreciation of each new day as an adventure of discovery. Ooh, that's heavy. They want me to read this one part again. Now, with this new year and this being the first card of the new year, I find it very appropriate, that for this coming year, we all need to trust each other and have, in some cases, have a crap load of faith.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, through understanding the basic nature of this animal, you may come to understand your own need for trust and faith, and for becoming like a child again. In today's society, this is a needful reminder to honor the wonder of life and the appreciation of each new day as an adventure of discovery. A lot of people just have to, it's drudgery, it's drudgery, it's drudgery. Look at it as an adventure. Otherwise, it's going to be a boring year.
Mm.
Porcupine sat silently looking at a hollow log, wondering if it was a playhouse that nature had created just for her. Porcupine envisioned all the things she could do with the log. She could climb on top of it and make the log roll from side to side. She could go inside and see if there were any juicy worms for her to eat. Just as Porcupine was pondering what to do next, she saw Bear approaching. Bear was big and black and looking for honey. Oh, another playmate to share my log, she thought. Hello, Bear, she cooed. Do you want to play and share my log with me? Gruff old Bear answered, Porcupine, don't you know that I'm too old to play? You're in my way. I'm looking for honey, so go away. Why, Bear, you're never too old to play, she replied. If you forget what it was like to be a cub, you'll always be an impatient and gruff as you are now. Bear began to think about it, what Porcupine had said, and maybe she was right. All the other creatures had run away from Bear in fright. Even the other bears had turned up their noses when he growled at them. This little porcupine was certainly trusting him not to eat her. She even offered to be his friend. The old bear looked at Porcupine and began to feel something move inside him. He started to remember the games he had played as a cub. Joy started to live in him again. Little Porcupine, you have reminded me that in becoming strong and seeking answers, I got caught in trying to be an intellectual. I became afraid of what others would think if I dropped my mask of gruffness. I was afraid they wouldn't take me seriously anymore. You have taught me that in being a fuddy-duddy, I was causing others not to care for me. Thank you. I'd love to play with this old log with you. And so it was that Bear became childlike again and learned the innocence of Porcupine. In choosing the Porcupine card, you have given yourself a gentle reminder not to get caught in the chaos of the adult world where fear, greed, and suffering are commonplace. The medicine in this card is that of relief from seriousness and severity. Open your heart to those things that give you joy as a child. Remember the preciousness of fantasy and imagination, and the making of some game or a toy from nothing but scraps. Honor the playfulness of spirit that lets everyone win.
Nice. Yeah, it just tells you you got to be, you can't be too grown up because then you'll let the world pass you by and you won't have any fun. Right?
Yeah, that too. But there's something about joyfulness. You know, when you're happy, like at 69 and almost a half, that's a running joke. That I'm still out there running around in the yard playing kickball with Duggar. And the fact that I can still run even just a little bit, the fact, I mean, it's like there's a joy in it. And now I've got like 5 kitty cats. I did a video last week about going down in the woods. I turned around and all these kitty cats had went through the wet spot and followed us down in the woods. It was like, this great herd of cats. But that, the critters will just follow you around and have a good time. And, that when early, that one story about that Mother Earth was a person, that the
Mm-hmm.
earth was a person, and that Creator took her and turned her into the earth, the mother of all things. And so a lot of people, just want to discount that. Oh, that's part of that Isis. You're worshiping the goddess and all. Oh, get over that, please. You can't
Mm-hmm.
have birth without a woman, period. Guys can't do it.
That's right. That's right.
And in many of the stories, the divinity of the universe is the combination of men and women in that twisting, snakes, the DNA, the spiral. The divine is both women and men. That's
Yeah.
the true divine.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you got to go to bed. Thank up to this point you didn't get called out. So
Yeah. Woo-hoo. Well, I did have to take a call, but hey, it wasn't an emergency, and I don't have to go out, so we're good. But
good.
anyway, thank you everybody for coming. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and we've had a great show tonight. We've learned a lot. I thank you for finding those good stories, and I hope everybody enjoyed the little bit of history that I brought out because it was really good and the great card. So go out and be a porcupine. You know, remember the porcupine and what porcupine is trying to tell us. And you'll have a better day. And it's the beginning of the year. And this is the great way to start out the new year. So remember, everybody, be the
Cheers.
frequency you want to receive. And we will all see you later. Love you all, everybody. Oops, there we go.
Cheers.